filming this, I don't know how many times I've already filmed this, but I really want to speak on it, so I shall. Look, I want to give you a different perspective on dealing with negative people, manipulators, haters, cheaters, negative Nancy's, or complete sociopaths, psychopaths, all them ones. I want to give you a different perspective as to how to make all of them and their actions work for you. If you're someone that's steady working on themselves, you're trying to be better, you're trying to do better for yourself, for your life, for this world, it is impossible to never interact with negative people again. Especially the more seriously you take your evolution, the more negativity you'll encounter. It's a double-edged sword, but it's reality. And it's only that way because in the end, it's about evolution. Every negative person you attract into your life, they will bless you with evolution. I know it's hard to look at it that way as you're suffering. I'm gonna get into it in a little bit. I know it's hard. I know it's hard not to succumb to suffering, to hate, to rage. Some of the most negative people and negative circumstances in your life will turn out to be your greatest blessings. As you're moving through this life, working on yourself, showing up as your best self every day. And when I say that, I don't mean a perfect person, because we're all human at the end of the day and we're constantly working on ourselves. You will get triggered, you will have to heal trauma, you will get embarrassed, you will get disappointed in yourself, you will disappoint others. You win some, you lose some, you're moving through this reality. As you do that, and you bring your high vibrational, your happy-go-lucky, positive demeanor around negative people, automatically they will react. Now, if there's someone that's working on themselves also, they will know how to manage their own triggers, their own responses, reactions. But if they're not, if there's someone that's not aware or not self-reflective, because there's not many of us out here, that at the end of the day, we go home and we reflect on how we behaved, what we said, how we did. At the end of the day, they go home and they still talk about other people, they think about other people, everything outside of them but themselves. If you happen to come across one of them, and something, it can be a mere existence sometimes. I've dealt with that recently. But other times, it can be the way you look. It can be who you are, how you behave, what you do. You will trigger other people's demons. You will trigger other people's insecurities. And if they're incapable, which they only are that way because they believe they are that way, they don't believe themselves capable of facing the sort of pain you've just triggered within them. So naturally, what they'll do now is they'll project and turn it onto you. You are their villain now in their story. They will have to turn that pain onto someone else, them having to run away from it in order to survive. If you come across one of them, and they will go ahead and take willful action stemmed from whatever you've triggered within them, whatever they felt threatened by you, they'll go ahead and take willful action onto turning that onto you. Depending on whatever stage or level you've got to on your journey, on your healing journey evolution, sometimes you're able to manage it, other times they will hit the spot, other times they will tap your wounds and you'll react. When that happens, if you're someone that's truly on their healing journey, you must be open and you must have reached a level of self-acceptance to where you're not judging yourself anymore for having reacted, to where you're not judging yourself anymore for processing pain, for processing triggers. So what you should do in that instance, instead of holding your ego, your pride, you will accept the trigger, you will accept you having now responded, and you will bring your focus back onto yourself. You'll bring your awareness onto your trigger, because that was the very purpose that you and this person interacted in such a manner. Healing and evolution can only happen through triggering. There will never be any definite, defined point where you'll be able to consider yourself healed. But what there will be acceptance and peace, stillness within this process of healing, while at the same time evolution and enjoyment. Anytime you interact with negative people, if you're able to take that and flip it to your benefit, you'll no longer fall victim. You'll now be able to pray for those that hurt you. Ultimately being grateful for what they're doing for you, for what they're doing for your life. Because it is exactly the same thing that you are doing for them. If they are bypassing their healing, if they're bypassing their evolution for always swerving their triggers, unlike you, that's become aware and working on it, you'll now be able to move through this life soaring past any hump, past any negative circumstance, past any negative person. To put that into more perspective for you, I'm going to share a quick little story as to how I've come to this praying for your enemies realization recently. After having dealt with a severely bullying workplace recently, I'm not gonna get into too much detail because I'm not here to expose anyone, but if you keep trying me. No, I'm joking. Explain how I got into that job was through a very serendipitous circumstance last year. Last year was nothing but a series of constant serendipitous circumstances after I decided I wanted to change my life completely. Now, those serendipitous circumstances began to happen when I hit rock bottom last year. I was unable to find a job, some way, somehow. In the end, I did. Now, how I did was even more mind-blowing, but maybe I'll share that in another video. Found a job, I was already at rock bottom. Now, because I'd surrendered my old life, which I consider my first quarter of my life, my first life. Now, having stepped into a second life that I started to actively create for myself. I had surrendered all of that. I was at complete peace, although my whole entire world was falling apart. I was at peace, I was in bliss. I know that sounds crazy. I needed for nothing anymore. I needed for nothing, for no one. I've reached happiness, fulfillment. I was simply happy to be alive and doing the best with whatever was coming my way. Now, how I stepped into that new job, under those circumstances, everyone there being aware of my circumstances at the time, was completely polarizing with what you consider a regular human being. I'm not considering myself any sort of special human being, but a regular person in our social norm would behave, would act in those type of circumstances. I was acting in the completely opposite way. Just happy to be there and happy to go hard. On top of that, I had finally accepted myself fully, completely. So there was happiness, there was joy, there was sunshine, mixed with confidence, mixed with experience, mixed with all the things. I was showing up as that, as a whole, complete human, while my reality was complete misery, because I was no longer identifying myself with that reality. Anyway, because of that, because of how I was showing up, because of the shock to the system I must have brought. You know, when you don't see yourself or how the world sees you, and then you do it and you're like, me? Because I was showing up as that. The people there started painting false narratives, having gotten triggered by how can a person like this exist type of thing. How can you be happy when you've got nothing? How can you be confident when you've got nothing? How can you be bold, hardworking when you've got nothing? Especially because of those things I can. Now, me showing up as that, triggering people, which it was made very clear to me and everyone that it was an obvious trigger that I was causing there for multiple people. Now, because I didn't have time to focus on the little things, I was focused on getting my shit together. I was focused on still having a roof over my head. I was focused on still having food to put in my belly. I was fully focused, tunnel vision, while at the same time aware of what was happening, but I wasn't entertaining it. I didn't feel the need to explain myself. I was just showing up as I was every day, doing my best. Because people got triggered, they started painting false narratives, all the things. Gossip, took it too far, took it out of the stratosphere. Naturally, you see someone with this face, with this voice, and that sort of demeanor, the demeanor that I have in my work, where I'm all fire, I'm all go, in my personal life, being a chill type of person, but anyway, makes you question. But because I didn't have time to address or clear anything, because end of the day, it's not my responsibility anyway. You're creating your perception of me, that's you. I am showing you who I am. You either take me or you don't. But the moment you start threatening my well-being or my safety, I will have to address it. Although all my life I had to fight, I've retired from it. Now, because those narratives were continuously being painted of me, people were continuously mistreating me blatantly. Blatant lies, things that didn't even make sense, no logical, rational sense. I don't care for that. But when it got to the point that it was threatening my security, I reacted. I got triggered, I reacted. When I did, I felt completely disgusted. I felt guilty, disgusted, enraged. It took me a couple of weeks to process through that pain and to process what trigger was just triggered within me by that. Because if you bring someone or people nothing but goodness and they return it with evil, simply projecting their own distortion of insecurity, of trauma onto you. Many times you can walk away. Many times you can just dismiss it and not address it whatsoever. Keep going, keep it moving. At times you have to put up with it. When you do, it's inevitable that that will get to one of your wounds at some point. When it did, and I sat down and I processed. I sat down with myself, I processed what was me, what was projection, I processed how I was actually during that period of time. What was I actually like? What was I actually doing? And what was projection? What was illusion? When I realized the sheer power that I was embodying as I was going through one of the roughest parts of my life, I understood. I understood how people that could even have 10 times more than I have, people that should be the most fulfilled in this life, could get triggered by that, by what I was being. When I realized and I understood and I sat down and I processed the pain, I processed my trigger, I tapped into infinite love, unconditional love. I'm not talking naive love, I'm talking unconditional love, where I was able to perceive of those people's darkness that they have to face and cope with every day, continuously perpetuating it unconsciously, and me having been a simple trigger to their evolution, just like they were to mine. I couldn't feel nothing but gratitude. I couldn't feel nothing but peace, but love, for both myself and those. And that was how I realized you should pray for your enemies, because the pain and darkness that they're continuously living in, your pain could have been 10 times worse. Yes, everyone's pain, we look at it that way. When you realize that there may exist people out there that have seen 20 times, 30 times more pain than we have, some of them may not be able to survive, may not be able to sustain and prevail facing that pain like you are. But if you are, and if you can, use every negative interaction, use everything that any negative person is bringing to you in your life to your advantage, because that's exactly what it's meant to do for you. If you think you're incapable of facing the pain, of facing the shadow, feeling it, allowing yourself to feel it, healing through it and moving on from it as a better person, understand that you're not the only person thinking those things. Everyone is. There's just some of us that make a conscious choice to face it. And you wonder, how and why are these people so lucky? How and why these people keep prevailing, keep prospering, keep winning? Although they fall, they get back up 10 times better, 10 steps ahead every time. It's because we accept negativity. It is because we objectively observe this life. We do not take it personally. Even if we do for a minute or two, that's the unhealed part of us, which is negative people, negative circumstances, that's bringing that awareness back onto it in order to heal it and yet again become a better human, capable of being more, capable of having more, of doing more. Now, if you're someone that's dealing with severe abuse, I know there's people out there, because myself included, throughout my life, I've experienced many monstrous science fiction, horror movie-like experiences. So if you're someone that's experiencing that currently or has in the past, I've been there. Many people you walk past every day have been there. Understand that every single person that comes into your life is trying to help you heal that pain. It's trying to bring your awareness and your focus back onto it. It is not the other person that's being mean to you. It is not the other person that's misunderstanding you. It is the very result of their action that is meant to bring you your awareness back onto yourself, so that you can heal that trigger, so that you can heal that trauma and move past it. When you're able to begin looking at everyone with compassion, with love, even when they don't do the same for you, even when they don't have that for you, that's a very powerful stance to hold in this reality. You'll now be able to have every positive and negative person, every positive and negative circumstance, every positive and negative force, power, energy, everything of the positive and of the negative polarity in this life work for you as a whole. All it takes is your perspective and your willpower. Your willpower can only be created from your desire. Your desire can be created from your pain. Where if you were to take the pain, if you were to take your suffering and fuel your evolution and fuel your desires, that will give you willpower. Again, I know it's hard, But it's possible to be grateful for your enemies, to be grateful for every negative thing in your life. The moment you become grateful for it all, you'll see how everything bends to you. It bends to your will now, because you are using everything you have in the benefit of not only yourself, but this world, humanity. You're doing God's work. So naturally, everything will support you, even as you're going through those suffering periods, even as you're going through bullying periods, abuse periods. Everything is supporting you during that time, because you're meant to go to another level and another level and another level. At each level, helping everyone around you evolve also, and learning how to enjoy life in the process at the same time. I hope this gives you a different perspective. I hope it helped you. If you're going through anything similar, let me know. Comment down below if you're willing to be vulnerable, which vulnerability is nothing but the greatest power. So it is not showing your weakness, it's showing your strength. And if anyone dares to come up against you for judging your vulnerability, I'm not only speaking for myself now, I'm speaking for others too. For judging your vulnerability, baby, that's the enemy showing itself. That's the enemy showing their moves way ahead of time for judging. So now you'll naturally have the leverage over them. I hope this is going to help you cope, overcome, and get over pain and make it work for you. See you in the next one.